Do you know what's funny about death? People prepare for it like it's a move to a new apartment, packing boxes, labeling furniture, deciding who gets the old oak table. I've lived 101 years. I've watched empires crumble into dust, and here you are worrying about the fine china in the cabinet. My name is Derek. I'm a shoemaker. I've spent most of my century looking at the world through the solace of other people's shoes. Footwear tells you more about a person than a lawyer ever could. And here is what I'll tell you. People fill their wills with junk. They leave instructions for silver spoons but die without saying the things that actually matter. Take my old friend Carmen Aiello. We ran barefoot together on 18th Avenue in Bensonhurst when the sky was thick people with coal smoke. Carmen was stubborn as a mule but had hands of gold. In 1961, his father died and left a '61 Impala to him and his brother, Dominic. Burgundy red. It looked like fine wine in the sun. It wasn't just a car. It was a symbol. They had made it, but the father made a mistake. He left it to both of them. You can't own a dream halfway. In the summer of '74, they fought right here in my shop. Dominic wanted to drive it to Florida. Carmen was afraid he'd blow the engine. They screamed until the glass in my storefront rattled. Carmen threw a cobbler's hammer at his brother. Dominic walked out and didn't return for 50 years. 50, I watched Carmen grow old and bitter. Every time he came to patch his shoes, he was more jaded. The car rotted in a garage. He didn't drive it because it reminded him of his brother, but he wouldn't sell it because it was his trophy in the War of Pride. Before he died, he called a lawyer. He was so proud of himself. He wrote 3 long paragraphs in his will about how sorry he was, how he loved Dominic, and how he begged for forgiveness for that hammer back in '74. He thought it was a beautiful gesture. The end of the movie, credits roll, everyone cries ... Do you know what happened at the funeral? Dominic came. He was nearly 80, barely standing. When the lawyer read those lines, Dominic didn't get misty-eyed. He got furious. He yelled at the casket, "You coward, Carmen. You made me wait half a century to hear this when I can no longer answer you. You left me this apology just so I'd feel guilty for the rest of my days." An apology in a will is an act of selfishness. You want to clear your conscience without having to look into the other person's pained eyes. You want forgiveness without the risk of rejection. It's a cheap trick. I almost made that mistake myself. My son, Enzo, didn't speak to me for 2 years. I thought I was right. I'm the father, the head of the house. I wrote him a letter and put it in the folder with the house deeds. I thought, when I'm gone, he'll read this and realize how wise I was. Then, that night, I dreamed of Carmen. He was laughing at me with his toothless mouth. I got up at 3 a.m., burned that letter in the ashtray, took my keys, and drove to my son's house. I just sat on his porch. When he came out, I said, "Enzo, I'm an old fool. I'm sorry." 9 words. They weighed more than my entire 3-story house. Don't wait for your "I'm sorry" to become a legal document. Paper doesn't convey the tremor in a voice. Paper cannot embrace. If you owe someone an apology, pay that debt today. Because the late fees on that debt are your own loneliness in the hour of your death. The second chapter of my book of life is called How to Destroy a Family with One Stroke of a Pen. When I was young, I thought justice meant everything should be equal. Later, I realized equality is for mathematics, not for love. But the worst thing people do in wills is try to explain their love through percentages. I leave Maria 20% more because she took care of me. While Julio didn't even call. Congratulations. You've officially branded one child a mercenary and the other an outcast. A woman named Helen Park used to come to my shop. Elegant, Korean, married to an Italian man. Her mother-in-law, the old Signora Moretti, was a tyrant. She died when I was 60. In her will, she left the family estate to her son. But with a note, the house remains in the family as long as the spirit of our heritage is preserved. It was a veiled command that Helen was never to change a thing for 35 years. Helen lived surrounded by things she hated. Old curtains that smelled of mothballs, furniture that poked her legs. She was afraid to change a thing because her husband felt it would be a betrayal of his dead mother. That wasn't a home. It was a museum for a dead woman. The mother-in-law was ruling the living room from the cemetery. Is that what you want for your loved ones? To be remembered every time they look at the money you awarded them for good behavior. Love cannot be measured by conditions. I'll give you the inheritance if you leave that girl or if you become a lawyer. That isn't a will. It's blackmail. And you know what happens. People either break and hate you for it, or they refuse the money and hate you anyway. You lose both ways. I have 2 children. Lucia was always there. She knows how I take my coffee. She knows my meds at 8 p.m. Enzo lives in another state and calls once a week. Do I love them equally? No. I love them absolutely differently. Lucia is my soul. Enzo is my pride. If I divide my estate unevenly, I force them to be enemies. I force Lucia to justify herself and Enzo to feel betrayed. Your money should be a tool for freedom, not a chain. Real trust is saying, here is what I earned. Take it and build something I never dreamed of. Even if you spend it all on a trip around the world, it's your life, not mine. I've seen old folks in my neighborhood keep their children on a short leash, promising a big inheritance. Those children turned into waiting vultures. They didn't love their parents. They were guarding their investments. If you want to control someone's life, buy a dog. Give your children the right to make their own mistakes. Maybe your granddaughter will drop out of college and open an animal shelter, and she'd be happier than if she became a lawyer because you told her to. Don't try to be God when you're already part of the earth. Let go of the steering wheel. Your journey is over. Let them drive their own car. We're coming to the most important part. To what actually remains when the lawyer closes the file and the fees are paid. Most people spend pages of their will describing how they want to be buried. Oak or pine? Which flowers? What music? Listen to me, I've buried 2 wives and almost all my friends. The dead don't care about the upholstery of the casket. It's a show for the living, and usually a very exhausting one. Instead of writing instructions for the funeral home, write what I call a life letter. My first wife, Anna Maria ... She left quite young. She didn't have a will. We had nothing back then except 2 chairs and an old record player. But in her notebook, I found a list called Things That Make Derek Happy. It said, the smell of rain on asphalt. The first cup of coffee on Sunday when he finished a difficult pair of shoes. That scrap of paper saved me from depression. It reminded me who I was when I had forgotten Dot and Gloria. My second wife. She was incredible. She knew she was dying of cancer, but she didn't waste time with notaries. She wrote notes. Small, short ones, hidden in the most unexpected places. 10 years after she died, it was a very cold January. I was going to the market and pulled out my old coat, one I hadn't worn in years. I reached into the pocket and felt a piece of paper. Derek, I know you forgot your scarf again. Put it on right now. I can see you from here. You're still the most handsome man in Brooklyn. Love you. Gee, I sat down in the hallway and cried for half an hour. She took care of me across a decade. That is a real legacy. It's a message that says, I saw you. I knew you. You mattered. Don't save I love you for the will. It sounds like a formality there, like a signature on a contract. Say it now. Say it every Sunday on the phone. Say it even when you're angry. I remember my father's hands. They didn't leave me money. They left me the ability to feel leather. When I close my eyes, I hear his voice teaching me how to hold the hammer. That is my inheritance. Not a house on Staten Island, but this whisper in my head that has helped me live for 101 years. A will is about things. Life is about voices. When you die, your children won't sit around remembering how well you invested in stocks in the 90s. They'll remember how you laughed, how you made breakfast, how you sat in silence with them when they were hurting. So, my final script for you is this. Tonight, when the sun sets, take a plain piece of paper. Don't write about property. Write to your son and tell him why you are proud of him. Write to your daughter about which of her traits you see in yourself. Write to your spouse that you remember the day you met in perfect detail. Hide these letters. Let them find them by accident, in a month or in 20 years. It will be a fire that warms them when your own fire has gone out. The money will run out. The houses will crumble. The china will break. Only words of love, spoken in time, are immune to death. I'm 101 years old. I've seen the end of everything. And I promise you, the only thing you take with you into the dark is the warmth of the hands you held. And the only thing you leave behind is the light you manage to ignite in the souls of others. Write with your heart, not a lawyer's ink, while you still have time. Because time is the one thing you can never write into a will.